I'm here in Brooklyn. I'm joined by PK Dow out in Chicago, and we're going to be discussing or doing a film reaction to Once Upon a Time in America, suggested by PK Dow. I've never seen this film before in my life. I've heard about it, probably seen snippets, but I watched a full 4 hours. PK, take over. Oh wait, let me read the synopsis per IMDb first. I like to do that
Okay.
first. Okay. Once upon a time in America, a former Prohibition era Jewish gangster returns to the Lower East Side of Manhattan over 30 years later, where he once again must confront the ghosts and regrets of his old life. Starring the great Robert De Niro, James Woods, Elizabeth McGovern, Treat Williams, Tuesday Weld, Burt Young, Joe Pesci, Danny Aiello, rest in peace to him, William Forsythe, and countless others. Directed by Sergio Leone. Writers Harry
Mhm.
Gray, based on the novel The Hoods. Additional screenwriters would be Leonardo Benvenuti, and it says others. Okay, so you want to go ahead, PK? Why did you suggest?
Okay, where we get first? Why did I suggest this film?
Yes.
Well, I first saw this movie back in 1986. It was actually suggested by my brother because he went to see it,
Okay.
but I didn't want to go. So I wound up waiting until it came out on VHS, if people remember those. So I saw it and saw it. I was like, man, this movie long. It's two. I mean, not this, but two cassette tapes. And I was like, okay. I watched it and I immediately fell in love with the movie. Um, for various reasons, but I like James Woods as well. Um, and I just like the performances. So that's why I suggested, because I would like want to take on it and see if it would, speak to the same way it spoke to me when I initially saw it.
Okay. Um, I streamed it on YouTube because it was not available as in a streaming format on Amazon Prime, which was frustrating because I'm an Amazon Prime member. So I was like, fine, I'll just stream
Okay.
it on YouTube. And I had no idea I was about to watch a 3 hour and 49-minute movie. My first time in my life watching a movie that long. And I've never seen a movie display the word intermission. I've never seen that. Like you have
Yeah,
intermissions at the theater. I was like, am I reading this right? So I thought that was
right.
interesting. And it's so funny you said it because the performances and the cinematography is what captivated me most of all.
Hmm.
And it'd been
That's
was
good.
it was it I would to me it was like a coming of age story and a story of friendship that turned into like business partnership that turned sour, and then you throw ladies in the mix, and
Hmm.
then that's going to add more conflict to the story. um
Right.
but I like how um it started out in the past, and then it would like go back and forth between the past and the present meaning being 1968 in the film.
Right.
It was released in 1984, but the modern day time was 1984. So 35 years had passed, and it started when they were teenagers, right, PK?
Yeah, well, the Robert, they were various ages, but the main characters, the character I would say around 14 to 15 range,
Hmm.
and James Wood, uh, Maximilian, he was a little older. I would say he was probably 16 to 17 in the film, and then the other members of the gang, like the youngest one was about 9, and then a couple other stair steps in between. So just a little bit quick on the 3 hours and what you say 59-minute movie.
49 minutes.
8 to 10 hours. He shot 8 to 10 hours, cut it down to 6, and the European audience got to see 4+ hours, and they whittled it down for the American audience. So to be honest, they're still trying to press to see if we film, because no one's ever seen it. So what they said, because I did some research on it years ago, was really the order in which Sergio Leone had envisioned, and they actually cut 18 additional minutes in the U.S. release. So just to put that out there, so this is an epic movie, coming of age, chronological, the life and the friendships that was established with these common hoods. And I don't know, you want me to start with like where we start everything?
Mm-hmm.
So basically, they had formed a little street gang, and they were doing robberies and nickel and dime and whatever to get by. And then they happened to meet in Maximilian when he moved into the neighborhood. And then at that point, the character Noodles and Maximilian, they got together, formed a good relationship, and started being criminals along with the rest of the members of the gang. And then it just takes off from that. And they did a flashback in this film. And the first thing that I really liked what he did was he used sound, because remember that telephone ring. Okay, beginning, it was ringing and ringing. It's like, why is he letting this phone ring for, you know what I mean?
Right.
And then, but as the movie progresses, you understand how significant that phone ring was. So I don't want the movie, but yeah. So that's kind of how it starts. So you want to jump in from what you think?
Well, it was interesting. I like the friendships. I like the bond of the friendships. They were little knuckleheads running about in New York, Jewish knuckleheads. Was one of the friends Italian?
I don't think so. We're all Jewish, because that was a predominantly Jewish neighborhood.
Yes, that's true. That's true. Mm-hmm. I did have difficulty determining like which year is this? Like, I didn't know if it was the
Well, actually, it was set in the 20s.
Set in the 20s.
Actually set in the 20s.
Oh, okay. Because when Robert De Niro
when he came, I think when he came back, it was 35 years. So and other stuff happened. So I would say it was probably in the 70s when they came back.
68. They put it was 68, 1968.
Okay, when they had the Big Apple, did you see in the train station?
Mm-hmm.
Because they changed the old, yeah. So okay, so if you say it's around 68, then okay, I agree with that. Mm-hmm. Was like 35 years later, so it was in the 20s were doing their thing and became.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting, like when they were teenagers, how at the speakeasy that Fats owned, the little redhead kid, and how Robert De Niro's character Noodles, just coming into like not manhood, but they were 13, right? So, how he opened the window as the older man, and then it flashed back to him being a little boy looking through the peephole and seeing a young lady that he came to love, Deborah, doing some kind of ballet dancing, and then she dropped her robe and revealed her behind. I thought that was really, really funny. And he kept like, he didn't want her to see, but she knew he saw her. And so it was like them tapping into their sensuality as 13-year-olds. That was funny. What were your thoughts about and then we can get into the young girl who became a prostitute later. She would show them
Right.
she would show him her juiciness for like some type of ice cream cake or pastry.
Right. That was before, that was before $40. So, she was doing great. So. No, she just progressed, what I'm saying?
Right.
and as you can see, when the guy decision, he was like, this tasty treat and get the girl. He couldn't wait, so he did for the treat. But anyway, yeah, that scene kind of, when I initially saw the movie, that threw me because I didn't expect that because she was so young. And get the actress name, but she is very famous now.
Oh,
played the little girl.
She was in
that was
she was in
a lot of stuff.
Higher Learning.
Exactly. She was the young girl.
Jennifer Connelly.
I'm drawing a blank.
Jennifer
Connelly. Yeah, I saw that after actress. So I was, like I said, to see her, see them that because she was probably nowhere near 18, I would think, at that time.
She was like 14.
Yeah. Right. That's what I'm saying. It's like, wow. So, but yeah, they went there, and you hit the net. She knew that she was being watched and knew, and she gave him, because it was a mutual admiration and liking. But as youthful people are, they don't know how to really express themselves and express their feelings the way they should. So he was just a voyeur, and she wasn't mind. She didn't mind displaying her goods at the time, and then it's like, I think the music with that in the later on in the film. So he did a lot of linking with sound, the visual, because it was so much flashback induced. So, everything took him there. So songs would take you there. So it took us as audience there, when they played the song, and then when the phone rang again throughout the picture. So I like the way he was able to bridge that gap with the film and the sounds and the music.
Yeah. Also, what I found interesting was the scene whereby they were getting into trouble with the police a lot, and they found a way out. They found a way to blackmail the police officers so that they could continue to get into their the foolery, right? The crime. And you want to tell the audience what that scene was? Do you want me to say it?
You can say it. You can tell. You can fart, and I'll piggyback on that. You if you want the more cover, I'll say it.
Go ahead.
So they got the young lady, Peggy, who was kind of promiscuous. She's slightly older than the gentleman, but very experienced in her sexuality. So the police officer on the beat back then, they had cops that walked the neighborhoods. He made a beeline to the roof, and one of the gentlemen from the street gang, I forget which kid it was, he saw him and alerted his boys as to up there, and they knew Pegula was up there on the roof laundry, that 9 out of 10 he was up to no good, and he was. So they caught him with his proverbial down, and that was the leverage that they need. Pegula, of course, was underage. He was a older, and he was doing the wrong thing. So they was able to leverage that picture that they took of him while he was in the act to allow them to do all the dirt that they were in the neighborhood, and he was supposed to turn the blind eye. So kind of like the extortion that, the established mob does. They get somebody that they can use their benefit, and they exploit that. So once they were big time, they was on their way to being big time.
Right. That was that was the beginning of their crime. Well, that was the beginning of their criminal activity, but of their extortion activity, right? It was a nice
Right.
foreshadow that the filmmaker established. I mean, if and again, it was somebody. It was the police officer, right? Supposed to be a moral authority, and of all people, they caught him in it with his pants down, literally, with this teenager
Right.
girl, and she was cool with it. And then she had sex with one of the other criminals. I mean,
Right.
I was like, wow. I mean, so much for purity.
Yeah, as long as they were paying, she
With the pastry, right, at the time.
yeah. Yeah, but she got some coinage from him though. You know, she got, you take what you can get from the
Right,
job,
right.
but
Yeah,
the
yeah,
police officer.
right. And then Robert De Niro's character, Noodles, he and Deborah, the dancer who he fell in love with, they had more of a well, initially a mutually respectful relationship where she would quote like I think the Songs of Solomon scriptures to him, and it's poetic, and so he was enthralled by her artistic side, and I think she was kind of mature for her age, right? Don't you think?
Yes. Mm, yep.
Yeah, so
Very
I think
much so.
he was
And
enthralled by that.
she was basically, yep. And she was basically pointing out his faults and to him, and also letting him know, what kind of person she really wanted to be with,
Yep.
and that he didn't measure up at that
Right.
time. So, and so
Yeah.
that was,
And she was like, "You can do better. You can do better. I don't want to hear any excuses."
yeah, always.
Yeah, but she definitely challenged him.
And she didn't like the pull.
She didn't like the who?
She didn't like the pull of the gang had. And every periodically Maximilian seemed like what we call cocking, Max, if you ever pay attention, he always came on the scene to pull him away from there.
True.
Always, it was always good. She goes, run away. Your mommy's calling you. Right. As they, when he comes back to town, throw it back in his face. They having a good conversation. In-depth conversation, even though she was way out, she stopped in anyway, and then came to the door, saw them engaged in the conversation, and want to pull him away. He called him 2 or 3 times. Anybody else be like, "Oh, okay, my boy talking to his girl. He been away for a long time." Right. But no, he's scared and kept calling him. So she said, "Go whatever's calling you," something like to that. Always was in the way relationship, lurking in the background, but yet still able to showing his control over Noodles.
Yeah, I thought they were both suspect because when he came back from jail, when he was released from jail, and he was like, he didn't tell you, or either she said he didn't tell you, Max didn't tell you I was here, or Robert or Noodles said, or Robert De Niro didn't. It was like, he didn't tell you I was coming back or I was being released. And she's like, no. And I was like, I don't trust Max. I think Max is low-key jealous of Noodles, Robert De Niro, of maybe the bond he has with her, and I think just jealous of him, period. Do you feel differently?
Don't necessarily it was jealousy. I think sometimes it's a character flaw. Some guys, no matter what's going on, they don't want to see you. It's like they don't want to see you have anything going. They want to be either try to detract from or try to get what you have. What they have probably just as good or better, but they don't want you with anything. And I saw him as a guy like that because he had ladies. He wasn't incarcerated. He had relations. He had money because, they were still doing the gang activity, socking away money. What he need to deal with his woman for? You know what I mean?
Right.
He didn't, it was just something that he could take. It's like a power grab. I think it's more, instead of jealousy, it was more of him exerting his power over them. And so it was a flaw in he took advantage of that Noodles had for him, and he played him like a fiddle throughout the whole. But that's why I didn't look at it as jealousy, but I didn't look at it as jealousy. I just thought of it as like, this guy's, top dog. He's trying to flex his muscles in one way. And one way is, if I could take your lady, I can do whatever. I'm myself over you. I have power over you.
I think that's more true to what was happening. Yeah, I don't think it was jealousy, but as it relates to Deborah, I don't know. I think as it relates to Deborah, I think there was jealousy because, I mean, we discovered later on that he and Deborah had a child together, right?
He said it was a child from his first wife being together.
Oh.
Yeah, okay. Because he said that she died.
Oh, I thought she was just lying. Okay, got it.
Right. Yeah. No, that was a child from his previous, and she had been in a long-term relationship with Maximilian. So I really don't know how long, if it would like overlap when married,
right?
Or he'd been in a long relationship with him, and they were living together. Okay. That Noodle is reintroduced into their lives. Because she mentioned that when they having the discussion.
Oh, right. I found interesting the cinematography was everything in this movie. Everything. It was excellent. It was excellent.
All the shots.
All the shots, the landscape, the imagery, it was just beautiful. I thought that was a crazy scene where they had done like a robbery in Detroit, Michigan, and Carol, she was like she was there as they was robbing the place, and she was like, hit me, and that was really subtext for F you, blah blah me. Like she was like a nymphomaniac, right?
Right, for the most part, she was into the rough stuff, and she was in on the robbery to begin with, because she was the one that fed the mobster the information diamonds and where they were hid. She was the inside person, so she felt that she could get it scraped up a little bit in order to the fact that she was an innocent victim as her. But then, once he to it, he could see, like, that's something she could with. So he just went with it. And also showed kind of itself to what he did later on movie, what he was capable of. That kind of, it's one thing to lay into somebody under those circumstances, but then even though she was a willing participant in the act, in your mind, you ain't thinking about doing that. I was not a criminal on that level, but if I'm trying out some diamonds and I know this in on it, and I gotta, rough up to make him initially want to rough her up, but when he's like, okay, and then he starts tapping her up, but to stay on the table and do that, I thought that was a stretch, and it kind of made me look at him different, because he was portrayed as a guy in the film, but then I'm like, he was there, you know what I mean? And I thought that was kind of when I was like, wow, that's kind of, you go from robbing somebody to bending them over the tape. So, but like I said, she was a willing partner, so you can't technically say a rape, but it was.
No, she liked it. She wanted it, right?
Right.
Yeah. It was the scene. I know I'm jumping around, but the scene where he reconnects with the love of his life, right? and
Right.
he takes her to this restaurant where he I think on Coney Island by the ocean, and he basically buys out the restaurant is closed, but he has them open it up and surprises her with like a whole staff, and it's this high-end restaurant. He tells us to sit anywhere you want. It's like all these tables, it's beautifully adorned, and she sits down and she tells him that she wants to be a dancer. She wants to go to Hollywood, right? But she doesn't tell him she wants to go to Hollywood in a restaurant,
Right.
but she just tells him that she has high aspirations to be an entertainer. Um, and he tells it, he's been thinking about her all this time. She's kind of what keeps him going. And it's such a beautiful night, and they talk, and then they dance together, and then they end up on the beach on the sand, and he expressed vulnerability to her. He's very vulnerable with her. And then she drops the bomb and said, well, I'm going to Hollywood tomorrow. And he's so like heated about it, so disappointed, really hurt over it. And then next thing you know, we see them I guess, driving her back home or whatever, or back to his house. And
Right.
I could keep going, or you want to say what happened?
Oh, you can keep going on this. Talk about the last one.
So I like how they set it up, because you just see Robert De Niro's character looking out the window, clearly despondent about the fact that the love of his life is moving to Hollywood the next day. He was hoping that they could connect and live a life together. And he was just so sorely disappointed. Next thing you know, she comes into frame, because you think he's alone, but she's sitting next to him. She comes into frame and she stares at him lovingly, and then she kisses him softly on his cheek, and then she kisses him on his mouth, and they keep kissing. And next thing you know, he takes her and she's on her back, and he basically rapes her. Like, she's screaming, stop, stop, stop. And he's going at it. And it's so interesting, because when he picked her up from her dance studio or her dance performance, whatever, before they went to the restaurant, she's like, did I take long or something like that? And he was like, I've been waiting for this a whole lifetime. And so he already had an agenda that they would, I'm thinking, initially make love, mutual love, and then it turned into a rape. And she kept screaming, and he just kept at it. And then one time I thought he was going to stop raping her, and then he revealed her breast, and then he continued to rape her. And then you want to go ahead?
No, I was just saying, right.
Yeah. And then the limousine driver, whatever, he pulled over. Robert De Niro gets out the car, and she's sobbing and can't believe that this guy who she cared about and raped her. And Robert De Niro is about to pay him, and the driver didn't even take his money. And he says, take her home. And I was like, I can't believe this dude like raped her. Like he didn't, I just couldn't believe he raped her. And she was just like devastated. And the driver was disgusted by the act. However, he did not stop it. He didn't even try to stop it.
Right. Well, that could have meant his life. So he knew what kind of person he was, Yeah. So it wasn't like his reputation preceded him too. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
So he kind of gentleman he was. So he wasn't gonna cross that line, but he did definitely his disapproval, his utter of what he took place. And, got in that car, he peeled off, to say she needed to go to the hospital or to out. And he was like, I'm up. This dude nuts. I'm taking her. And that was another, like you said, he was vulnerable. These high expectations for them. And then in that instant, tenderness to him, perverted it real quick. And then he exerts power over her. Just like that, take you. You said I can't, I can have you. And he went there. And that's why I was like, it was the previous discussion where we was talking about the robbery, went there. You see what I'm saying? So that was his major issues with women. Remember, as a child, when he first interacted, when we first saw him interact with the young prostitute, Peggy, he didn't want to go home because his parents was always at odds and it was a toxic environment.
Yeah.
So he probably was a witness to a lot of violence towards women and arguing and went off probably because he was so quick to go. Like I said, when he with the diamond incident, stealing and robbing the diamonds, it was so odd. I went there, I wanted it or whatever, but he didn't know she wanted that. You know what I mean? Just
True.
went there, and I just like, wow, that's a character. So then when it comes back, now this is a strength during the diamond heist. Now this is a woman he has long-lasting feelings for, and he with her so violently, you know, her will. She, like you said, she was saying stop. She probably said stop about 5 times.
Yeah, throughout the
he was
oblivious to the rape.
He was oblivious, and like you said, and that's when I was like, yeah, you're right. And it was a second in there where the director made it seem like it came to it. But no, he just repositioned stuff to penetrate more.
Right.
If you look at it, he leveraged to secure her. So for his, so it was like what that scene, but that's why it put dirt on his character in my opinion, because he was supposed to be the clean one. It's like you end up to be like the good guy out of the situation. But then that was that major chink in him. Okay. So yeah, so that was something.
Yeah, I was like, I hope somebody kick his ass for that, man, because it's like he went from warm and transparent and vulnerable to this cold monster, like totally dismissive of her crying in his ear. Like it was like, so, you know, it made me think like you did not care for her. You were attracted to her, and that's all it was. Because for you to completely tone out, like zone out her screaming in your ear, stop. You didn't care for her. You did not care for her. You were sexually attracted to her. What are your thoughts about that? Do you feel differently?
No, I think it's some of that, and it's like I said, it's his past, and it's like he went to prison for killing their rival.
He did.
So you know that prison life was he raped? Because you know he went in young, he did a murder, so he was in there with the big, he wasn't in juvie,
right?
So maybe they took him violently, during that time in his life. And then you coupled it like what I said, because when I was talking to my daughter, when we watch a film, I know we watch a lot of movies together.
Oh, that's wonderful.
I tell her, pay attention. Yeah, I tell her, pay attention, because the director is not going to show you something unless it's in. Okay, so when we see like that, we got to pay attention, because it's in that dialogue where he says, I don't want to go to my house because it's going on. That's telling you something.
Yep.
You need to file that away. And that's what I do when I watch movies. I file stuff away, because from the standpoint, why am I seeing this? It's got to be for a reason, unless it's just where they just throwing stuff at you. But if it's a film, they're gonna give you that you're gonna need later on. That's the way I looked at it. And so when you put all that together, the family life, negativity, going to prison, negativity, then to see him do that act with those two women, it almost kind of lends itself to like American Me. Remember, got the girlfriend, he couldn't except when he flipped over and went in her behind. You know what I mean? He took her from behind. Same thing, that mentality. The intimacy wasn't aroused But when he felt like he was taking her from behind, he could perform under those circumstances. He was institutionalized. And I think with Noodles, he was institutionalized, and he his played out his what you would call disappointment in her move away and start her life without him. Again, so he gonna take what's his and he gonna do it rough and do it violent. That was my take on it. So how you feel about that?
I mean, it was definitely on some like, I have the final say. You don't have the final say. I control what happens here, not you. You know,
Right.
this false sense of entitlement. You know, like I wish she would have scratched his eyes out or something. Like, but I know she was so taken aback because she didn't see it coming. But you gotta watch, mofos when mofos is all of a sudden quiet, and they don't express frustration or you gotta watch him. And he was quiet and he was just sulking all that time. And I think it was almost like a volcano, like it was just erupting internally. And then it's like he was just waiting for her to lean over and kiss him. And I was like, he just took off. Like because my thing is like, I think at some point she would want to make love to him because she was attracted to him. She cared about him. It was going to happen for her naturally. But he's like, well, fuck it. I'm not waiting for that because you disappointed me. Basically, I'm hurt. I feel rejected. And so in order for me to gain my sense of power, I'm going to just take it. And what also I found interesting was when the very next day he pulled a Love Jones and met her at the, at the train station, and she was and she got her newspaper and she got on the train, and he saw her and their eyes met when she was on the train, and she just pulled, and I love that she just pulled the shades down slowly. Like, I don't want to see your fucking face. You disgust me.
Yep.
Like whatever we had, you completely ruined it. It's done. It's done.
It's a wrap. It was like curtain.
It's such a wrap.
Close the.
Yeah.
Yep. So once that segment ends, we had we jumped in full-fledged prohibition. They're making money. They're starting to expect into, okay, we got to go back because they had several backs. Yeah. So once they establish themselves with the police, so we got to go back to the situation.
Oh, Danny Ayala.
They start getting, before that, they got comfortable in getting more jobs. They came up with the idea of loading their cargo with salt in the balloon. So when they have to dump it, when the police came on the waters, they could dump it in the river and then wait until the salt dissipates and will float their cargo up that they could get their drugs or whatever they was sneaking in. So they start doing their crime until they got to the point they met Joe Pesci's character. I forget his name, but he was a big crime boss in the Italian, and that's when they bigger jobs and with the heist, that stuff. So they were getting closer and closer. What Maximilian, the gang, which is actually to get in bed with the mob. You get everything that go along with that. The bigger, more the accolades, the street cred or whatever you want to call it, things of the life that they were living. And you can see with Noodles' character, one of those guys that I'm just comfortable doing. And I got, at one point he's like, this is, what I could. He's like, what, you want some? he was simple. You know, he was real simple. I'm comfortable with what we doing. I don't get bigger. I don't think we need to have bosses over us. So let's do our thing and just ride it out.
Mm-hmm.
So, but you could tell Deborah, Maximilian had his eyes. So the two, his life was actually looking beyond him.
Yeah. I knew they were going to be, I knew that, like, I'm like, these two are going to come in the head because Robert De Niro character, he, like you said, he was even killed outside of the rape. He was like an even killed cat. He wasn't overly ambitious, right? But Maximilian was like, was as we find out later was trying to do everything to not be connected to his father, who was in an insane asylum. But we saw like little like hints of Max not being mentally stable, right? Like he would snap off. Anytime Robert De Niro character would jokingly say you're crazy, he would snap off.
Right.
He was kind of like a firecracker, right? He was kind of out of control.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and he was progressively worse as the years went on. And Noodles button with that word. That was his, you know, when you say crazy, just go off. I'm gonna show you how crazy I am.
Mm-hmm.
And then it got to a point where he got real physical with him when he called him crazy.
Right. Twice.
Maximilian, yeah, remember he put hands on him, you know, and he's like, "Don't ever call me crazy." Oh, that was a turning point right there.
Yeah, to me the story really centered around the conflict between Max and Noodles, right? Robert De Niro and James Wood. It was really centered around their conflicts and their like power trips. And then they would throw in as I was watching this movie, I was like, this writer does not, he has a low opinion of women.
You think?
I mean, we're all sensual, sexual beings, right? So I'm not trying to be innocent, but I just feel like most of the women characters were like very sexual and yeah, they it sounded like they were used for the purpose of sensuality, sexuality. Most of their positions was like outside of the Deborah character who wanted to be a dancer and she ended up being raped. The one who the woman character who was not very sexual, she was the one who was raped, and the other ones who weren't really sexual, who were very overtly sexual, they were never raped or taken advantage of. I thought that was interesting. I'm like, as I was watching it unfold, I'm like, he has a lower, well, at least he has a low opinion of these women. As a woman, I'm looking at it like, wow. Outside of the Deborah character,
I can see where you could say that, and you could kind of flip it around too and say, like, certain type of individuals attract certain type of individuals. So if you hoodlums, I mean, I think debutantes gonna gravitate towards hoodlums and speakeasies.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like it just sometimes it's like water seeks its shelf. You know what I'm saying? It levels off, and they meet in things, because if you dealing in the underworld, you're gonna meet underworld characters. Respect. So and the way the women go into the world, especially Carol's character, Carol was on, because when they gave her background, she was doing threesomes. She was in home to her husband so he could watch. You know what I mean? So that's who she was. Yeah. And that's what they like. Yes. And that's who they were around. Right. So but the only one with redeemable qualities was the Deborah's character. But like you said, she met that fate. with her interactions with Noodles.
But it,
It drove the story. I thought it drove the story because that was another distraction that was keeping him away from doing what Maximilian's character wanted them to do, and started being in that gang activity and establishing themselves as a legitimate force in that neighborhood and in the city of New York.
yeah, that's true. You know, even going back to the Carol character who, you know, said hit me, and you know, she became a prostitute, and but then actually he gave her some levels because she went from being a prostitute willingly to being exclusive with Max, right?
Right.
And she began to care about Max and didn't want any harm to come to Max. So they actually he showed more dimension than I'm letting on.
Mm-hmm. But also, let's go back to what you just established. You established that she became intimate with Max, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Who was she intimate with first?
Robert De Niro character Noodles.
He took his lady. Because if you remember, when they reintroduced her into their lives, mask on,
Yes.
she went down the line. She like, oh, okay, I knew you. So she had interest in James Wood. Remember when they first, you know, establishing that?
Mm-hmm.
She went to Robert De Niro's character Noodles, and she said, "Why don't you join us?" And he was like, "Nah," because he was dressed up for his date with Deborah. He was like, "Nah, I'm not a part of that." So if you look at it, James Wood yet again kind of took something that was Noodles at one point. And then when he had bought that throne, and that's when they were in the room after off and did his opioid binge, and came back and saw that she and we had meetings and got the woman in and this and that, and how quick he was to be like put her out and degrade her like she didn't mean anything.
Right.
So it's why'd you take, what I mean? Unless you just, I think that's why I said, reminds me of guys that don't really care as long as they take your, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
or take something from you. Because it's obvious, like you said, in care, he wouldn't have treated that way and put her out, made her whatever.
Because he even said
that was really showing. Yeah.
Because he even said boldly, I don't give a fuck about her. I don't care about her. Like she's standing in the room.
Right. Hey, get out. Get out. Get out.
And then the next
shut up. First he told her, shut up.
Right. He like totally, he was so disrespectful to her. And then the next couple of scenes, he's kissing all over her and like, he was like a Jekyll and Hyde. Like, he was so unstable. Like, I mean, I'm like, I think if him and Robert De Niro didn't establish a bond as children or teenagers, he would have parted from their business relationship a long time ago. Do you feel that way or no?
Yeah, it was destined to fail. Because that's just like with any type of business venture. You gotta have a page. If your vision is not the same, at some point you're gonna grow apart. And which they did. Like I said, because contentment and the other one had lofty goals. And you can't do both. I can't keep him content doing, in my mind, if my goal is to run, you saw, you know what I'm saying? So his goal was where Noodles was right here. So it was whether they met, yesterday or they had that long-standing relationship from their youth. It was destined to fail. and it played about with their, I labeled them their character flaws. You know, the built-in character was a hothead. And if you notice, everything was attributed to family. The relationship with the parent.
Right.
He did it crazy because his daddy spent his time in the Noodles had it. So it was a psychological dimension to it, you know, that brought it everything together, right? And so it was the times they were living in, it was their city were brought up in that played a big part molding them as the men they became. And you know, they were damaged, basically damaged individuals. But thing I want to talk about, because this, I guess, this now with the opioid scene where he going to these opium dens
and Chinese theater.
I thought that was like, yeah, that in the back was the opium den. So that was my first, I saw it back in the 80s. That was my first glimpse of that. And I was like, wow, they really do that, where they just camp out and just smoke by themselves, you know? And like, I was thinking, because I'm a person that never, or you know, and I'm like, what's the thrill by yourself? You know what I mean? It's like I'm like, why am I getting high myself? But then, you know, that's just what they do, you know. So I thought that was odd, and I had to ask people, I mean, would you get high by yourself for 3 days? I mean, you know what I'm saying? Or a week at a time, because a long time. You know, they got a little bit on them, they massage them, they nourish them. You know what I mean? They keep the blood circulating. If you notice, tended to them like they was at a Carlton or something.
Right.
Pipe full of whatever. Puff, puff, puff. And no passing involved, just straight up, you know. So that was like, you know what I'm saying? That was so wild to me. So let's kind of move forward in that. So now we get where they established themselves. They're moving in a certain direction. They Carol was with Maximilian. Bruce found him a girl, pretty young lady. They on the, and he hits him with his big plan. So we're gonna rob the Federal Reserve Bank. You gonna do that? Oh, we can do it. That's suicide. Then he go off again. There you go. Got that ticking time bomb. So at that, you knew something was gonna happen. We get to that point, something was gonna happen. And as it moves forward, he's obsessing about that move. Robbing the Federal Reserve. He's talking about it all the time. He's talking about it with Carol, where Carol confronts Noodles about it. It's like, stop this guy. This is insane. This is a suicide. What he's doing? What is he thinking? You're gonna have to turn him in
heavily guarded
to save his life.
Yeah.
Right. It's like it's no way around it. There's no winning to pull this job. Right. It's all losing.
Right.
So she puts in motion Noodles trying to save their life. So if that man, my guy's in, I'm gonna have to turn him in. And that hence for the ringing of the phone. When he makes the phone call to the desk sergeant, that was that ring. And going back to it, it was because we know what happens later after he make that call and how everything went, quote unquote, supposedly went south, and his gang got slaughtered. Yeah. Phone call, him making that phone, something he had to wrestle with for years. You know, that's why when it was initially introduced in the movie, piercing, it got to a point where it was like piercing your ears. It was painful. Listen to that ring. I started something with that phone call. So
yeah.
What's your impressions about that?
Well, even connecting to the FDR, I mean Federal Reserve Bank, I like how the director, the writer, how they infused corrupt politics with politicians, with the mob, with the unions. Like, that was really scary to me, PK. It's like folks out here voting and all that, and you know, and it's all right as citizens, but it's like when you watch this movie, it's like it's almost, I don't want to say it's for naught, but in some ways, like when you really get into the thick of how things really unfold with politics, with politicians and the unions and corporations, it's like they have way more influence than our little votes. I mean, per this movie, and how some politicians are almost killed for doing the right thing for the citizens. They walk that fine line. What were your thoughts about that commentary?
Yeah, that was spot on, and you can say you could bring that to, you know, our current day as well. Money runs politics, and that I appreciated people like Bernie Sanders, because Bernie Sanders, you know, that once you take them out of politics, what you were speaking about, the people actually, your vote does matter. So I'm gonna just put that on the record.
Well, of course,
I've been voting since I was 18, so I believe.
Yes, me too.
But the impact is mitigated by large interests who are able to fund these campaigns for these people. So who has an audience with them but the big donor? And the big donors are the ones that get all the attention. No matter who was president, especially when I would say with the Republican Party, I really find that if you make less than $1 million and you're a Republican, I think you're an idiot. But anyway, when they get in office, the thing they do is take care of the wealthy. And then they turn around and say, we have no money for the common person. Trickle down. You get to the wealthy, it's gonna find its way down to you. And same thing with the politics in the movie, where this guy boss, but the around him was so immense. And it's like, why you not on this? This is how we get down.
Right.
Don't you know you didn't get the memo?
Don't be so naive.
I'll take you out.
Yeah.
Right. We're bigger than you. You know what I mean? We're gonna be here long after you gone.
Yeah.
So when they was putting that gasoline on him to give him some credit, because he was like, you know what I'm saying? I'm not signing nothing.
He was willing to die.
Right then. In a lot of the early union situations, but if you notice, it was real slick how the director and the writer weaved this prohibition ended. He was like, they have all these trucks. You all could buy the trucks up. And Noodles was like, but that was the big picture. That was the beginning of the Teamsters.
Yes.
All these rum runners got trucks. Now prohibition over, they ain't gonna need these. You could buy up all these trucks and you go. So they already established how the Teamsters came out. They were so mob connected, you know. There it was. It initiated, you know, on this story that you could see, or the beginnings of what could be the Teamsters Union. So I thought that was kind of clever how they did it. And he just did it with passing dialogue. It wasn't nothing too deep. If you caught it, you heard, you went with it. If you didn't catch it, then, you know, it just rolled off your back. But I was like, oh, okay, okay, I see you. And so, but that was the vision. Whereas Noodles was narrow-minded. You know, he didn't have the vision to see the profitability that goes into that and the power, because Maximilian was about power. Both about power on certain aspects, but Maximilian was total power. He did what he did in the end. I'll jump back after he made the phone call. So for those of you who didn't see it, after he made the phone call, a situation happened, and the police want the members, Cockeye, the other guy, and Maximilian. So Noodles witnesses, you know, the aftermath of this, and he sees their body toe tags on them, putting them in body bags. Maximilian's character is mortally wounded and he's burned to a crisp. And then next scene you see his girlfriend. I think did that come after that? Because you know his girlfriend went to the meet, and when he was telling her that, you know, he wasn't gonna come back, you're not gonna be gone for a long time. For some reason he assumed that he was gonna be with them when it went down. Right. But I got to ask you, why was he not with them? Because I can't remember why he wasn't with them.
I don't know why either. Because I remember going back like, why? Because what was his out? He didn't even have an out, did he?
Exactly. See, that's why I was saying the movie is longer than what we get to see. So we probably, you know, that probably made the core, because it didn't connect, so to speak. Because I didn't know how he was able to avoid it, unless you could assume he wouldn't be him then again. You never know, you know what I mean? After, because you know that all happened with Deborah and all that stuff. So maybe he went and did his little thing at the opium den for a quick hit. He missed them. So I don't know what that was. And then, you know, so they're dwelling where Noodles and her live together, and she pulled back the covers and she sees the outline and bullets of him.
That was,
and then next thing you know, yeah.
And she was a broad.
That was almost like the guy.
Yeah. She was a real ballsy broad. She was a broad.
Oh yeah, definitely. So, and they put the screws to her, and then he winds up going back to the what was his name? Fat Moe's.
Yeah.
So he goes to Fat Moe's, and he sees it kind of looked weird, so he and go the back way. So he goes to Fat Moe's, where he was found bloodied, and one of the henchmen from the syndicate was laying in wait. Noodles got to jump on him, and he found from Fat Moe, they're after you, and you know, he was like, well, I'm gonna go get my girl. Go back to how he's like, oh, they was already there. So they already killed her. So he's like, oh wow. So then he got where the gang kept their money, because there's some money for themselves and put some money up as a group. They reinvest in the business. So Fat Moe basically told him, well, so he took the key, clock, went down. This was the train station or whatever, where they had the lockers back then,
train
where
station,
you take, you know, put your quarter in, take the key. So he went in there. Nothing. He got gaffled. Not a penny. It was supposed to be $1 million in there. So now he has no friends. The syndicate after him, and they killed his woman. He got to leave town with whatever he had. And then he goes to the train station and get a one-way ticket to, what was it?
He said wherever. I don't care. But he went
wherever.
Upstate New York.
Yeah. Okay. I think it was Buffalo.
Buffalo, New
Is
York.
that upstate New York?
That
Buffalo?
is. Yes. Yes.
So he shuffled off the Buffalo. And then if you want to pick it up from there.
You well, I love when he went to buy the ticket at the train station. He was like, "Where to?" He said, "Wherever. I don't care." He was just like, "This,
Right.
just get me out of this city." So from
Right.
there, didn't once they do that, they went back into 1933, or they, because it skipped around a lot, so it confused me sometimes, to be honest.
So what they did was, that's why the train station was important. And that mural, they showed the mural, and the mural was like of the 20s or 30s or whatever that time period was we're living in. It was the 30s because, you know, prohibition ended 3 or whatever the case was.
Yeah.
So yeah, around that 34 or whatever. It was the mural around that door. So then when he goes to Buffalo, he got a letter, and that's what the letter from the I was about to say archdiocese, but they were Jewish, from the synagogue about the moving of the individuals in the cemetery. So then it flashed back to the same mural, but it's different now, and now it's showing New York as the Big Apple, and it's an apple around the door. The time frame changed, and then also they started playing McCartney song, the Beatles song, Yesterday. So it had to be around the time which, do a quick shot when that came out. It had to be in the 60s.
I think that was like a screenshot of 1968. I don't remember, because I remember watching the movie. I'm like, what is this, the 70s? I'm like, but I think there was something on a screen that said 1968.
Yeah. Oh.
It's like Max.
Yeah. So anyway, so when he came back,
huh?
Oh, I'm listening. I'm trying to.
I was saying that Maximilian,
and see what
Maximilian's greed would never be satisfied. Nothing.
Nope, not at all. So it brought him back, and the first thing he went to Fat Mo's hood again, and you know, he called him on the telephone, and he closed up shop early. He just had a few patrons in there anyway. It wasn't like it was a big place. And we basically talked to him about, you know, this letter that I received, and you know, the letter and say, "Oh yeah, I got this months ago." He said, "Well, I just got mine." Like wow. He's wondering. He's like, basically, figures out, well, they know who I am, and they sent him coming to, basically he came to face whatever he had to face from his past. And then he came to the realization that Fat Mo had nothing to do with stealing the money, because they entrusted Fat Mo. He wasn't involved with their underworld business,
right?
But he was, you know, and they trusted him to hold the money. That's just like, you know, in gambling, you know, it's a third party gonna hold the money. I'll trust you, you don't trust me. So like they said, unless we all together, they said, unless we all together, don't get it. So now think about this, the Deborah aspect. It would behoove somebody want to get close to Deborah too, brother. So have access, you know, where if he was establishing something on the side, you know, where he can come in as time went on, he could get that key, place it, and bring it back, and maybe then, because I was trying to figure out like how would he get, but everything Maximilian was doing was for a reason. And everything he did was for greed reasons. And everything, even they was putting that money away, he always his money. he was gonna get it hook or crook some kind of way. And then we find out in the end that he was the one. He became a wealthy, established businessman and what was he, a senator or something like that?
Yeah, it's a secretary of something.
Secretary, yeah. So he rose to prominence with the political field. So he used the money and he used his influence with the mob and probably with the team and developed himself and post. And he, reestablished himself as a different name, just like Noodles assumed another name in Buffalo. He assumed another name and lived a life that he had envisioned for himself. And you could tell that Noodles everyday average life, maybe slightly below average per se, but he was a survivor and he willing to face the consequences for the things that he's done in his life. Because if you ever look at it, he the only one that faced consequences for their action. He was the one that stood up, defended the game. Because remember when he got with Bugsy, he got his ass whooped with Maximilian because of Maximilian.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? He brought him, so he fought for the game. Bugsy killed the little one who stood up for the game. Okay. Noodle stood him up and stabbed the cop too. So you on anybody. He took his punishment. So he was a man throughout. He was a man throughout. And he came, whatever he didn't know what was coming his way. Whatever was coming his way. So that's what brought him back to New York. Fat Mo was telling us,
because Deborah was like, don't go. Questions? Deborah said, don't go to that party.
Right, exactly. So when he found out, he got a chance to see that she didn't want him to see Maximilian's son there, who's the image of her father. And that when, like, as I was saying before, I'll see this through the end. Why did you give me all this money? Why do you want me to come to this party? What's going on? He gets there, it's revealed to him that Max, the heat is on. Everybody involved is dropping like flies, getting thrown out of windows, getting blown up, and he know his time is limited. So I'm gonna go out by to somebody who I've wronged and that I respect, and I want you to do it. And Noodle's character was like, nothing to me, Mr. Bailey. He's like, he didn't even bother to call him. Ask me, like, Mr. Bailey, what are you talking about? He's like, I took your girl, your money, I took your life. And he was like, say, I had a friend and it turned out bad for him.
Wait, so was Deborah and Max together in the end?
Yep. Yeah, Deborah and Max was together at that point.
That's what I'm
saying. He got married when he went to, he got married and his wife died and they got together. But I'm thinking she could have probably, because think about it, she could have probably, been with him all along once he got established and was on the West Coast while she was, being an actress. I could see them, by being neighborhood people, and they both wanted more than the neighborhood.
Yes, Robert De Niro character said, he said, you guys are just alike. That's why you don't like each other.
Exactly. But their similarity brought them together.
Yes.
Okay, because they were one and the same.
Overly ambitious.
Succeed at all costs.
Yes.
And ambitious. So he was like, I have no beef with you, buddy. So I'm not the one. So he presented him with the gun and the offer. He said, what you think the contract for? He was like, I haven't had a gun. And he just let him know. It's like, look, I forgave you a long time ago.
Yeah.
It's over and done. I made my peace with that. My peace with that. So then he lets him instead of this is what I thought was kind of weird too. He gave him a passage to go to the street, give him a way out so the people won't know. So, but since he didn't do it, I was like, why is he not just going back through the park?
Right.
But anyway.
Yeah, I didn't understand it either.
I didn't understand. So he went down, he went the back, he still could have mingled at the party, talked to Deborah, that's what, I thought would, but he went out the passage, and as he's walking through, now here's some things I found was interesting. As he was walking through and he made it to the street, there's a big Mack truck out there, windows blacked out, couldn't see. It's not even running. So he walks quite a distance. He crosses the street, start walking through like a large meeting, and then
I thought they were gonna kill him. I'm like, somebody's gonna kill him.
Yeah, it was. When I first saw the movie, I was like, "What's about to happen?" So then you see Mr. Bailey come out, or what you thought, baby. So he comes, Max on. And then the truck is moving and Max is walking. And then all of a sudden you can see his legs underneath. Then next thing you start hearing grinding and crunching sounds. Truck passes by and you see it's one of those trucks where they had the mulcher in the back. So Mr. Bay jump in the back. Noodles just see the truck. The truck had 35 in it. And that's the time that lapsed. It was 35 years that he took from him. So that 35 was important. And so was that his coffin? And that's where the mystery around this movie begins. Then after he leaves, we get another flashback after he's looking at the 35. And the flashback is of him at the end. And he's puffing and he's puffing. He's getting ready. Big puff. Turns around and he looks. And then he smiles. The biggest grin you ever see.
I love the way this movie ended. It ended like on a 10. I mean, I was so like engrossed in that last frame. I just thought I was like, whoa, I didn't see that coming. But I loved how
So what did you make?
What did I make of why he was
what did you make of that smile? What did it mean?
To me, it was like he was finally like, he was wholly at peace. He was at peace. It was also a form of escapism, but to me, I felt like he was just at peace. What about you?
See, that's a mystery. Okay. And if you research this movie, there's a lot of interpretation. But what I took it two different ways. Okay. One way I would say, even though Maximilian explained, he said, when you came out there to see us, he said, your eyes were so full of tears that you didn't notice. Okay, that opium den scene was a flashback to that night that he did that. So that in my mind one thing. Nah, motherfucker, my friends, I'm sorry. I know that wasn't you. I know you did this. That's one. I'm not a fool. Because if you look at it, you know, Circle, he wasn't surprised at what he came to see. He came back to town.
He wasn't.
He knew for sure, because he didn't know, but he wasn't surprised. So that grin could have mean that motherfucker did it. He did whatever he did it. Because remember, his money gone.
Right.
Money gone. Who else got control of money? He thought only person that was alive, it could have been Fat Mo.
Right.
But when he came back after 35 years, Fat Mo was barely making it.
Right.
So who else? So he knew without knowing. One thing. Then the big to see what you thought. What if it was a dream? Like Biggie say, I used to read Word Up, Mac. The whole thing was a dream. The whole thing was an opioid-induced fantasy. Because if you about it, in that scene when Maximilian comes down, supposedly jumps into this truck, what kind of cars came driving down the street?
From the 30s.
There you go. Cars from the 20s and 30s. What are they in the 60s? So was that all the sequence? Interwoven with the thing from a fantasy realm in reality? Don't know.
Trickery is trickery.
So that's why I say I had two endings in my mind. Was one, he figured Max out. And two, never happened. So that's what I got from there.
Cause he didn't just smile, he chuckled. Like he damn near laughed.
Yep. Right. And if he out them as much as we know he did, why would he do that?
So wait, so Max faked his death?
Yeah, he faked his death. He even explains it. He said that was a syndicate option. The police was in on it. Everybody was in on it.
That's madness.
He took that money. He got that. He built that money up to, think about it, $1 million back then. That's what almost like 30.
That's what because thank you for saying that, because when I was watching this, when they were on the beach in Florida, I'm like, he's like, how much we have here? $1 million. I'm like, dude, this is 1933. $1 million. That's a lot of money for me right now. And this is 2021. And he's saying $1 million. Like, right. Oh, even like $30 was a lot of money in 1933. it's like $1 million.
A loaf of bread costs 2 cents or 5 cents or something like that.
$1 million.
And you got $1 million.
He's like, no.
That's a lot of sandwich.
Remember, Robert De Niro's girlfriend was like, if I had $1 million, I just relax. And he was like, no, not until we have 20, 30, 40 million.
20 million.
40 in 1933.
Exactly. That's darn near you pushing $500 million, with that kind of money, buying power compared to how, things are expensive now with the inflation.
Right.
Because think of a $200,000 home back then probably had about 12 You know what I mean? You know, it's a mansion. Your average house in Chicago, 300,000.
Right. And so a million. I was like, when he said it, I was like, dude, do you hear what you're saying? This is 1933, and you're not satisfied with $1 million. I've never seen $1 million.
Right. My age, I probably never will. Yeah. It's
but also, PJ, I want to talk about I want to talk about, like, now you tell me, because you know way more about this movie than me. Robert De Niro, did they film this movie 20 years? Because Robert De Niro looked super young in 1933 setting. And then in 1968, did he gain weight and they put on, they aged him? Because he looked.
That was a hiccup job. They did a wonderful with aging, and that was with prior to CGI and all that, straight makeup. I didn't Google the sports for stuff like that, because you know sometimes movies might not win Academy Award for like in writing, but they win those behind the scenes things, you know, like wardrobe and up and all that kind of stuff. And I wanted to check into that because I thought the same thing. I mean, they aged him. Think about it. And the movie came out in 84. So De Niro probably he couldn't have been no more than 30 something or 40 at the most, I would think.
40 at the most.
Yeah, been in 30. Yeah, because he's not even, he's 70 something now, right?
Right. I don't even think he was 40.
Yeah. So he was in his 30s. So that was a beautiful job.
I mean, there was a lot of impressive things, but that I was, most of all, I was like, what? I could not believe, because I'm like, did Robert De Niro, because I know, you know, he's known for like gaining weight, losing weight for a role. I'm like, he must have gained weight too, right, because his face was fuller. But I have to say, with the Deborah character, they didn't do a good job of aging her.
Right. They just put a little back because she still had to be beautiful because she was an actress. Yeah.
I was like,
so, but James Woods, hit the age, Maximilian age, they aged him too.
Yeah, and Fat Mo, they aged him. Because when I was looking at Deborah, I was like, girl, you ain't got no melanin there. You know good and well you ain't aged like that.
Right. Yeah, she was the queen. With age doesn't wither her. You know?
Right.
That was her character in the play.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So in a nutshell, if you're looking for a nice bow tie on your ending, you didn't get it. It was left intentionally up to the interpretation. I like it like that sometimes.
Yeah, I'm cool with open-ended movies. But when I was watching the movie, I was like, I know the cinematographer must have got nominated for something, because the cinematography was everything.
Yeah, it was awesome. Look that up.
I'm curious, did Robert De Niro get nominated for anything, or James Wood at least? James Wood.
I don't. One thing I wish I would have looked that up this, because that I was thinking, but I didn't try to look it up, and I'm trying to look up something. Okay.
James Wood was excellent. He was really excellent.
It was a lot of great performances.
Yes. Yes, I agree.
A lot.
It was definitely an actor's film.
And like you say, and visually, it was just like, and they were saying the movie was shot in different countries. It wasn't in the United States, except they went to Florida. They shot a lot of it in Italy.
Oh.
stage, you know, because Sergio, he made his mark in America with the spaghetti western, so he did a few dollars more in those movies with Clint Eastwood, you know,
Oh, the
Good, the
spaghetti
Bad, the
western.
Ugly.
Okay.
That's yep. Once Upon a Time in the West, I have that movie. It's like if you like cowboy movies, that's one of my favorites too. But you know, they didn't film a lot of it in the United States.
Oh, wow. That's interesting. Um, I think the acting was great from everybody. Everybody was just killing it. Um, yeah, everybody had made an impact. I like the interaction between outside of the rape. I like the interaction between Robert De Niro and Elizabeth Montgomery. I thought they had great chemistry, on camera chemistry. And I thought Robert De Niro and James Wood had great chemistry, friendship chemistry.
Let's see, it was a Golden Globe nominated for Best Director, nominated for Best Original Score.
Okay.
It didn't say anybody won. Nominated for what's that, BAFTA Awards for costume designs. He was saying
I agree.
Best Score, Best Cinematography.
Oh, right on.
Best Director and Best Supporting Actor, one that played the Floozy. Let's see.
She was funny.
Academy Award, Academy. What does it say? Okay, that's 19. It actually received some kind of award in 2015. Okay.
Which one? The one who
Yeah.
was a prostitute as a teenager, or the one who said "hit me"?
The one that said "hit me."
Oh, okay.
That was Tuesday Well.
Tuesday Well. That's funny.
You know what? I don't think it didn't win. Journalist. I don't think it. Oh, he won. Yeah, he won some. He won some. For best director in Italy.
Oh, nice.
He was not. He was nominated. Because release was in Europe.
Okay.
Because the Americans they didn't want it because of the length. You know, and that speaks to how they think of us as an audience. Maybe a lot of people don't want to sit through that, but it's a good movie, and it's visually appealing, and you have good acting. I sit 5 hours. You know, as long as it's good, you get intermission. You get intermission. You know, say go to the bathroom, come back in 5 minutes. You know? We got more for you. Yeah, but so it got a lot of nominations, but I don't think the Academy Award gave him anything. But like I said, that movie was stunning and it was made, and that's why to introduce it to you, to get you on it, as you know, a buff, how you felt about that movie.
You know what? I'm glad I experienced it. It was definitely a movie full of testosterone for sure. I see why men are drawn to this narrative. I really do. So for me, I was like a fly on the wall, right? I was like a voyeur inside, how men talk about women and how they interact with each other. So, but what I like most of all about this movie was, in fact, the cinematography, was the direction and the acting. I did like the bond between Robert De Niro and James Wood, and how it eventually was severed because of James Wood's greed and his sense of self, right? But all of the characters were very interesting and engaging and memorable for the most part. Even Fat Mo was memorable. Yeah. But
Right.
but interesting too, though. Like I feel bad, but I know like the music score got so many nominations, but I don't even remember the music score. It didn't grab me because I don't remember. I don't
Uh,
really remember it.
well, I thought, well, I don't know how it would. Remember the pipes, the flute, the flute that was um like I said, he used music to tie everything together. Music was, I thought, was important because it drove the story, it made connections, and then also it allowed to when they did the flashback sequences, it tied them together as well. Cause like, remember when he came back, it was so many things that pointed to the facsimile was, or somebody was alive, because who paid for the crypt for all of them? Because you remember he went to the crypt, and when he opened the door through the speakers was what I used to play on the flute all throughout the movie. Played through the speaker. So I don't know how that play into a movie, but I mean, but the music and stuff that I heard in the movie kind of had me on this journey. And it's kind of almost reminiscent where we say a change gonna come affected us. And now we when we hear that, we Malcolm X, and that's it. And the pain of his assassination. With when I heard that flute, I thought of cockeye, I thought of their youth. That, and that's why it was important for Max to incorporate that in there, because Max took from everybody. He took their lives.
Yeah, he did.
He took their money. He took that. He didn't care about nobody but Max.
He was a true politician.
Yeah, like the last at Mar-a-Lago.
He had the making of a corrupt politician like nobody's business.
Yep, and he was so tied in with the mob, they had to come out before he took them out. His days were numbered. So then the other thing was, did Max die? He faked his death before they take him out. He said he wasn't going to accept it from no one else. He would have killed himself. Did Max really die? That's another mystery. If you believe everything and it wasn't a dream, and it really, we're not sure Max jumped in the back.
But
Max could have just left.
When Robert De Niro, when he was leaving Mr. Bailey towards the end, and we saw the cars from the 20s and the 30s, I thought he was just reminiscing about, his past and before the conflict really popped off between him and Max. He just recalling fond memories before everything got chaotic. So, but I think like what you're saying, it could be that, or it could be, we'll never know. We'll never know.
Right. Yep.
Yeah, I guess the writer was like, we want you to decide.
Right. And the thing about it is, I heard on speaking about it years ago, that he didn't know. And then when they shot the film, they used his double. He didn't even do that scene. And that lends itself to ambiguity that the director in the movie. See, he wanted to elicit these type of conversations, at least with the cut that we got to see. Because, like I said, we never saw his full vision. Was a 6-hour epic. You know what I mean? So we didn't see anything we could base it on what we did. It was left up. A lot was left up to the viewer's interpretation.
And I think we are
Your mind is going with.
I think some Americans may be like, no, that's just some motherfucking hoes in the movie. But, or we have a more optimistic point of view. We're like, no, it's open-ended and he wants us to decide. And so, and I also maybe, too, maybe, as Americans, we're not as patient. Like the maybe the Europeans, like you said, they can luxuriate in 6 hours of film and take up intermission and like. But we're like this. We're like, no, let's go. So, generally speaking.
Yeah, generally speaking, but I mean, but it's some truth to that. You know, a film. That's why they you know, a film could be 80 minutes. You know, a feature length. You know, we don't have patience like that.
You don't.
You know, but I'm a you know, I can sit, like I say, if it's good, like Pan's Labyrinth. That's a movie. Like,
I've never seen
you
that.
know, subtitles. A lot of people don't read subtitles. I don't mind, you know. So I watch Amelie and sat there, and, you know, pay attention with the visual and read and look and read. So I mean, I have no problem with that.
PK,
You know?
we have to do a film reaction to Amelie with Audrey Tautou. We have to. I love Amelie. I love it.
Yeah, that was good. And was good too.
Huh?
Mm-hmm. I said Pan's Labyrinth was good too.
I've never seen that one though. I've never seen that one.
Okay.
Wait, have you seen?
Yeah, definitely could do.
Have you seen Cinema Paradiso?
Mm.
You gotta see this Italian film. That film is everything. It made me cry. It made me laugh. It made me relate. I saw this Italian foreign film like in like 2004, 2003, something. It is 2005. Something. It's wonderful. It's centered around a young boy, a friendship that's developed between a young boy and a movie projectionist.
Okay.
Yeah, and they form a friendship, and the little boy, he becomes a movie projectionist himself when the older person, you know, transitions. So it's a really great tale of friendship and the love of cinema. So win-win.
Okay. Yeah, text it to me. I'll check it out.
Okay.
But yeah, so just to sum it up, you know, my take was, like I said, I like the fact that you watched it and you appreciate it. But like I said, this is one of my all-time favorites. I got a long list of all-time favorites, but this is one of my all-time favorites that I could watch over and over again, and I have many times, years, you know. And that's why I took the time to buy it. And oh, let me show you this real quick.
Okay.
Okay. This right, another one of my favorite films. I would love to get your impressions on this.
Ooh, I'll check it out.
Yeah. Now, I would love to get your perspective on that. But that's another Diane Keaton, excellent. Had Tom Berenger in there. Who else was in that movie? Tuesday Weld again. She was in that.
Diane Keaton is
Richard Gere.
Diane Keaton is a great actress, so I definitely want to see it.
And Richard Gere too. A young Richard Gere was in it.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So we got we got a couple of films to do film reactions to. We got Looking for Mr. Goodbar, Pan's Labyrinth, Amelie. Yeah, we got some. Oh, and the next one we're doing is what? Or should we save it?
Fresh.
Fresh.
Oh, I already said it. I'm sorry.
It's okay. The next one we'll do a film reaction to the movie Fresh, the classic urban film. I hate saying urban, but the classic film Fresh. I cannot wait. I haven't seen this in so long, so it's gonna be like brand new, like fresh eyes. So yeah, I can't wait to see that movie again. But I'm glad I saw this movie. I'm glad I saw this movie. I learned from this movie. Like it wasn't predictable in many regards. It kept you like guessing, and you had to really focus because it was going back and forth, going back to two different flashbacks, like when they were teenagers, when they was in their 20s, and then their 60s. I was like, whew. But you gotta watch it more than once. Like you can't not get. You're gonna miss stuff. I missed some stuff. I know I did.
Yeah, you can't digest it all in one take.
No.
Especially if you're not accustomed to looking at a movie with that type of lens.
4 hours. I was like, intermission on the screen. I was like, wow, that's different.
4 good hours. Or you could do like that and get yourself the DVD, and then you could put it in, you could hit pause, you could go eat something, come back. Must have. If you collect like I do, you gotta have this. If you don't have it, you're not a movie person. That's my opinion.
No. Are you crazy?
Gotta get it.
Is there a commentary on it from the director?
This is I think it's, I don't know if this is an anniversary. Yeah, this is a special edition one.
Is it?
It's got
featurette too?
Yeah, it's 2 discs. Yeah, it's because you actually had to play 2 discs. One
of course
part on this one, and the other part is on. And both of them have special features too.
Oh, nice! I love featurettes.
Yep. So yeah, so you could hear from it. I think that's where I heard James Woods talking. I think it might have been in the special features on here.
Okay.
Yep. But yeah, it's a nice little set.
Oh.
And it's got all the chapters, the many chapters, listed on there. Yeah, and it's a lot of because this was updated in the 2000s. Okay. Yep, because they introduced this in 2000.
Oh,
so
okay.
This one, because I had it on VHS, and a lot of our VHS movies got damaged.
Oh.
I had to purchase stuff. So this was one of the ones that I had to get. So yeah, excellent film to me. Like I said, one of my favorites from that genre. I'm glad you appreciated.
I did appreciate it. Introduced the Bugsy, the real life Bugsy character. I was like, hold on, isn't it Al Capone? Like, no, Al Capone, that's Chicago. Bugsy's New York, right?
Right. Bugsy Moran, yep.
Yeah. So we're gonna wrap this up. So PK, you know how we do it out of 5 stars. What would you give this film? And the film and then the performances.
Ooh. Okay, all right. The film, talk everything. I'm gonna have on that. The performances, I'm gonna go 4.5.
Okay. So I'm the opposite. I'm gonna give the performances 5 and the film 4.5. Because I was like, and the duration of the film is it's new for me. 4 hours is a long time. But I was still engaged though. And shout out to Denny Aiello, and the fact that he was playing a cop, Officer Aiello, that was hilarious.
Right.
Yeah. So that was nice to see
his whole thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, before we go,
Rough
can we talk about the scene with Danny Aiello in the hospital when his wife had just given birth to his fifth child, his first son?
Right, right. Yeah, that was one of those good ones. Well, he came to the hospital and they already established that it was some monkey business going on with him union because they had a strike and he beat down and installed scabs. So when you get and one of the reporters brought that to his attention, and then he kind of snapped off on him and then had to pull back because cameras were on him and everything. And he was excited to see his baby boy. So when he gets there, with it, unbeknownst to him, the new maternity ward switching tags and switching babies around. So Word finally brought his child to him. He said, to his daughters and say, next to me, this is the man and he in charge. You listen to him, and he just an infant. So he unwraps it. The baby took a little tinkle and saw that a feminine child, a masculine child, but a feminine child. And I thought he darn near threw the baby. He jumped like, what's this? And it was insane. So then he get a phone call, screaming and yelling at the nurse to bring his boy back. And they let the Noodles and his gang let him know that, hey, you need to correct what you did with him, or else you never see your son. We switched them all around, but we know who he is. Come to circle, one of the gang members actually lost. They switched all the babies around. So randomly gave him a number for the boys, guys were girls, and the even numbers was, and they just let their lives be up to happen. So the whole maternity ward got different kids. So it's a lot of people that's really not if that was the case.
That scene.
So that scene was awesome.
It was that scene I'd never seen. That was so funny. He was like, "Oh no, I got big balls, and I know my little boy had big balls." And it's like he see a little girl, and it was just like, "What is?" Oh my God. That was classic.
They showed that.
Huh?
I was surprised they showed that though.
Me too.
I said I was showed that though.
Me too.
Yeah, so I was actually surprised. So
yeah, and I know this was wrap it up. And also, I was like, I didn't know that was Jennifer Connelly at the beginning of the film when she was doing the ballet dance for Robert De Niro's younger 13-year-old self. And when she revealed her buttocks, I was like, so her parents allowed her to do that when she was like only 13 or 14? Mm-hmm. I know, because I was like,
coinage.
before I knew it was Jennifer Connelly, I'm like, well, maybe this actress is really 18 years old, but she just looks 14, and so she's an adult. But I'm like, no, that was Jennifer Connelly, and she was 14, so, or 13 or whatever. And I'm like, whoa, but yeah, like you said. Anyway, y'all, so I'm gonna wrap this up. And go ahead.
All right. Oh, I was saying, yeah, it was great.
Yeah. It's definitely a classic film. Definitely check it out. Again, it's starring Robert De Niro, James Woods, directed by Sergio Leone, and Tuesday Weld, and Joe Pesci was also one of the he was a supporting actor, and then Danny Aiello, rest in peace to him. So I hope you guys check it out. I hope you guys enjoyed our discussion of PK Dow's favorite film, one of his favorite films, Once Upon a Time in America, although it was shot principally in Italy, which is really ironic. So check it out. Please comment below this video and chime in if you liked it, what you liked about it, and if you've seen it. And that's pretty much it, everybody. PK, you want to shout out anything before we wrap it up?
Nope, just see more films, expand your horizon. You see the foreign films, see you can see.
Yes.
That's what it's all about.
Yep. Yep. Okay, you guys. Let me say happy Black History Month to everybody, and enjoy your night. Take care. Peace. Chinese.